I know that,
Skipping?
yeah, and I know there's a big city council meeting tonight.
Well, I have to then email her about the end of year memos.
And I'll make sure, because I check my email.
She said she was going, I mean, I'm assuming she's going to, because she was seriously considering it.
I've never worked in the school system.
Well, and Z actually is gosh,
Thank God that worked out. We got it done.
his
And we have the
daughter's
short list.
softball team. They're both on it, and the season just started in tonight's scrimmage.
Is he a voting member?
Done a couple things.
You've never
lost in school.
Oh, right, you know, keep checking. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually not totally clear who's.
No one had a problem with the
Yeah,
everyone got
I,
it.
yeah,
That is so weird. I said, that's gotta be a sign to somebody that before each one picked
saw his
their
email,
time
but I
and
never
got it, that there was no problem.
Yeah, it's good energy.
That's weird.
Congrats on being nominated.
Yeah.
It's hard for us,
Right, because they're all gonna show up prepared.
last year we were nominated and it was, we were at the
Oh,
dress
yeah.
show. I was like, how are you gonna compete
And
with
they
Butter
came all, you know.
Yeah, exactly. They came all dressed in their regalia. Yeah, but it's always just like that.
Lisa, do we have places for our students?
Oh, yeah.
Right in front, it's right up there. If you go around the corner, you'll see it.
Oh, yeah.
you have to be a resident.
I put her like, yeah, I put her next to
So I was like a great
and you can just turn it around. So that way we know you're here, there.
Oh, I'm
So
not.
it's 6:32. Should we get this party started?
I know, we
Okay,
only
I'm
have 8
surprised
votes,
to learn
just
that.
so you
We
know.
did, we might be able, we won't be able to vote then.
Yeah. It'll
Is there
just
anything
have to
that's
be-
critical in terms of needing a vote? Yeah,
We
well,
have to turn the packet in on May 8th, but I think Anthony would be better to ask.
any of these votes critical?
The votes to authorize the committee and the RFS, yeah, those are retroactive votes, so we should probably get those squared away.
Well, we only have 8 voting
We won't
members.
have, yeah, we don't, yeah, we need 11.
I can reach out to Robin
I
tomorrow.
mean, we can't even convene then.
What do you mean?
We can't even start the meeting if we don't have if we don't have a quorum, right?
Right, and a lot of people were late getting to me today about that they're gonna suddenly, and there's a big city council meeting tonight, and
Yes.
that's. Like I'd already left here.
I thought you
and people
convene a
were
meeting, but you
emailing
just
me.
can't vote, no?
Can't have a meeting either?
I don't, without a quorum?
I believe you
Didn't
can meet, you just
contact
can't vote, I thought.
I don't,
First place.
Yeah, I mean,
don't think so.
okay.
I'm assuming Bob's not coming.
We went to the.
Megan Stoddard already told me she wasn't coming.
I know we don't have a quorum, but can we still meet without, but not vote, or you can't meet at all?
You can meet, but you can't vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. All right, we're gonna get started.
All right, so we're calling the meeting to order,
Yeah.
6:33.
Oh, you guys all set? You good?
How are you?
Yeah, how are you?
All right.
Good to see you.
Is the manager you wasn't gonna be?
He's not gonna be here. I know, and
The unfortunate thing is this is the 4th Thursday of the month, and all our other meetings have been on the 3rd Thursday
It's because of
because of vacation. So I think when we made, we didn't realize there would also be a city council meeting tonight, and tonight they have a big agenda.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, so some reached out and told me they wouldn't be here, some didn't.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. It's 6:34. I hereby call the meeting to order of the Salem's Building Committee. We have a pretty ambitious agenda. On the agenda, there are 2 items that require votes, but we don't have a quorum at this time of voters to actually enact those votes. So I'm wondering, we can do a couple of things. We can perhaps make a friendly amendment to move some of these agenda items around in hopes that folks show up late, or we could just stay with what we have.
Let's do that. Let's move.
Although even if you get to vote on, that, right? But all right, we can't even do that. You have to vote on a friendly amendment. Friendly amendment, you can't even do that. Okay, can't even do that. Anyway, okay. So we're just gonna follow the agenda as it is written, and hopefully folks will show up and then we can enact those votes. Again, welcome everyone. Glad to see you. I am so happy that we have student participation. We have 3 students, and I'm gonna, Lisa, I'm gonna let you say the names because I don't wanna butcher their names.
I don't want to butcher
Okay.
her name either. So maybe,
Can I
introduce her?
Please do.
Absolutely,
Please
please,
do.
thank you.
Please meet Hadassah Hunt.
And so Hadassah, welcome. Hadassah is one of 3 students. The other students, I may butcher the name, but I'm gonna say, is it Thais?
Thais, yep.
Thais, okay, and then Mohammed.
Mohammed,
Okay,
yep.
okay. Glad you could join us. This is a very important initiative, and you are, as a student, you are the bridge. You're living in this world every day. We are not, or at least not in your shoes, so we value your input. You are a member, just like we all are, so you have just as many rights as we have to comment, to vote, the whole 9 yards. So again, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Good, good.
Could we just hear a little bit
Sure,
about
sure, yeah,
her
go ahead.
experience?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, what your CTE program, so people know like what expertise you can share with us.
Yeah, so my name's Hadassah. I am a sophomore in Salem High, and I'm a part of the electrical program. So last year, as a freshman, I went through the exploratory, I'm not sure if you guys know much about that, but the like exploratory route. And then I chose electrical at the end, and so I did that for my last semester, and then I've been doing it for my whole sophomore year, and I plan to go like into the field after high school and stuff.
Good. And your experiences thus far at the high school have been?
I would say very positive. Yeah, so I joined like Salem. I moved here a few years ago, so I'm kind of like a new resident. But I would definitely say this has been a very good high school experience. Like obviously transitioning was a little bit difficult just because high school is a lot different than other schools. But I think like the like teachers and the community is really positive.
Good, good, glad to hear. Well, again, okay, any questions for Hadassah before we keep it moving? Okay, all right. So next on the agenda was a vote to authorize the membership of the OPM Selection Committee. And unfortunately, we do not have, there are 20 voting members, so we would need 11 in order
We have
to.
9 right
We have 9, so we could always come back.
I know Glenn is coming, so
Okay.
Glenn would be 10, right, 'cause he's a
Okay.
voting member. It was, I think it was the folks who were, you're not pointing at me, Mike, right? Oh, I thought you were looking at me. Phone,
Yeah, I sent out, I don't know if you all, I
Yeah.
sent it, I was rather late in the day, I sent out membership and those who are able to vote.
Right.
So, yeah.
The residents of Salem is who we have voted, so Glenn would be the 10th, I think, so.
So can I ask a question on that?
Yep.
I'm a resident of Salem. I'm not listed as a voter.
But I think by virtue of the work you do for the city, you might not have.
That's why I felt
Yeah,
like
I think,
Okay.
Elizabeth, Polly, Anthony, Anna Friedman's not here tonight, she's not a voting member.
Well,
I
Anna's
think
not, well, Anna's
anybody-
not a resident.
Huh?
Anna's not a resident, but
Oh,
I am, so.
I mean, we
Round
can,
it up
we
there.
You
can,
guys can amend that.
That,
Yeah,
that was the mayor that did the membership.
Okay.
okay.
People keep coming back to me, but I didn't have anything.
Yeah, he and I.
It was Lisa's fault.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. So what we'll do, we'll talk to the mayor. and
that's
see.
why I brought it up about the voting, because we just go every day, oh, let's adjourn, let's start. And like, all these people should, I'm like, when we get to real votes, we gotta know who's voting. Yeah,
We'll confirm that though.
right.
So we're gonna have to press pause on that, and hopefully we'll have 11 before we leave.
So, and I just also want to add, if we don't get a quorum tonight, we're gonna need to take this vote before May 8th,
Okay.
so.
We may have to hold a special meeting, and I'm gonna guess, and actually, Beth Ann, you would probably know this, but anyway, can we have a special meeting by Zoom for the purpose of a vote? Okay, we may have to do that. It
That
might-
would be a good idea.
We may wanna try to do that before we leave here tonight, if we can't vote. Okay,
Yeah, we just have to list it as a remote meeting.
okay.
Yep.
Cool, okay. All right. So I guess the same holds true for the second item, which was a vote to approve the RFS and authorize RFS for advertising. So we'll hold off on those until such time we have a quorum. Moving right along to item number 3, which is the MSBA update, and I'm gonna turn it over to my co-chair, Rick, to talk about the OPM subcommittee update.
Thank you, Nate. So the 2 votes we're not taking yet are retroactive. We have advertised for the OPM, and we were, Anthony led them through a walkthrough. There were, I don't know, maybe 25 people at the walkthrough.
There were 26 people representing 18 firms.
Some of those companies were OPM, some were architects or other design professionals looking to get a head start on the next phase thing, just to kind of familiarize themselves with the project. We ultimately got 9 applicants. We spent the weekend and the last couple of days reading all of their applications. I think when we met this afternoon to create a short list of 4, which I'll get to in a second, but I think generally we all felt that all 9 of them were qualified. They all have done MSBA work. They all have done public procurement. They all have done high school, middle school, elementary school. They've all had the requisite experience. They ultimately some of them differentiated themselves in terms of the specifics of their approach, how they were going to tackle the problems they see here at Salem High. The personnel may have had more specific experience applicable, appropriate to what we're doing at our project. One of the requirements we talked about was sustainability. Some people had a more boilerplate response to sustainability. Others had a more tailored response to sustainable design and green design. And similarly with reaching diverse populations in the community, how do you marshal those resources and get everybody to the table and have a conversation? So some people, again, had very boilerplate language around that, and others had very specific language and good case studies or examples of this is how we did it here, this is how we did it here, and this is how we see that experience applying to the work that needs to happen at Salem. So 4 differentiated themselves, and I'll let Anthony say the names so I don't screw it up.
So the 4 finalists, the 4 shortlisted companies are Answer Advisory, Left Field, Skanska, and Turner and Townsend Erie.
There you go. So you're way ahead.
There we go.
Well, after our meeting, I had to get a couple slides so we could update.
Those are the 4 shortlisted firms. Interviews next week, first and second in the evening, and then on the evening of the second, we will, after 7 o'clock, we will deliberate and make the final recommendation. Do any of the subcommittee members want to add anything else about the process or what you saw or anything?
No, just that there will be questions that we have
Oh, right.
gathered and created. You want to finish that?
Yeah, we put together 6 questions that maybe already have been distributed.
Have been distributed.
So we're distributed to these 4 firms so that they can come to the interview prepared. I think what we wanted to make sure, there's no point in having the interview and having them rehash all the basic stuff that's in the thing they've already given us. So we asked 6 specific questions about the individuals who are going to be in the room and what their role is going to be in the project, who are we going to talk to every day. We asked about sustainable design. We asked about reaching communities, because we wanted to hear them talk more about that, reaching diverse populations. So we kind of reiterate some of the key points in the questions that we left them with and expect them to speak to those as part of the interview process.
Can I just ask
Yeah,
you guys
sure.
a question? How important is it that they have some, understanding of Salem or some, or have worked in cities? How relevant is that, and their knowledge specifically of this city, as you guys think about it? I mean, you have, obviously we chose you to represent us because of your expertise, but I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
I think personally, the urban kind of nature of Salem, if they've worked in Western Mass in these bucolic settings like that side's different, right? So the urban nature and the diverse population, that's where we're trying to kind of get at that issue. Having worked in Salem or not is less important to me.
Okay.
It's kind of understanding, like, I don't know, a sister city like a Lowell or Lawrence, or something that has an urban quality, that has a very diverse population. I don't know if others want to.
Yeah, I agree. I think having the experience of the types of issues that we will face certainly outweighs by far anything about the familiarity of the city, because, the reconfiguration will certainly be one of the issues that we'd be really interested in hearing how they participated, not that they ran it, not that they controlled it, but that how they participated at what level, because that will be a major issue here. If that happens successfully in Brockton, for instance, then I think that will lead us to have some interest in their experience. But, the fact that they worked in Salem or have people who live in Salem, not as much, at least again, in my opinion. That's the beauty of having multiple members who knows what will rise to the top.
Anything else to add?
Everything you just said, the diversity is one of the things for me.
I'd like to ask a question. Once the OPM is identified, say, and sort of chosen, are they going to have any input in terms of, or what input, if any, are they going to have in terms of the next, the next piece, like choosing an architect
Yes.
or choosing blah, blah?
Their first task would be to help us draft the RFP or RFS, I don't know what we call it, for the architect design team selection.
Okay,
So they would help draft that
okay.
with our kind of input as to what our priorities are and everything. And I don't know if they actually pick it up and run with it then, or?
Well, I guess they'll take us, not really. I mean, they'll
Yeah.
help us do that.
Yeah, the actual posting and
Is through
receiving
you
will
still.
still be with the city. And of course, the actual selection of a designer is heavily in the hands of the MSBA.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Because
okay. I was just wondering if they had input into the selection. That's what I
The-
wanted to know.
Into the selection, not really. Into the design of the RFS, yes. So-
Yes,
I-
okay.
I think for the most part, they'll listen to what is important for us in terms of selecting and help support that, but no, they don't have, it's interesting, we were reading today, some of them have their own ed planners that are either in their offices or they're bringing in as consultants. The architect will have an education planner on their team to help with programming. So it would be interesting during the interview to hear how that dynamic happens between the OPM, how much influence would their ed planner have, and whether we agree that that should be the case rather than having the architect's ed planner. So it can be, they're here to support us ultimately in our decisions.
Good to know. Thank you.
Other questions? So after the interviews, we make a determination the evening of the second. Then Anthony has the privilege of negotiating a fee proposal with them very quickly so that we can then report to the MSBA by the 8th
Right.
that this is who we would like to use. And then the MSBA, I guess, considers that for a month and decides on the 3rd of June that they vote on that at that time.
Well, there's a large package that has to go back to the MSBA,
Right.
with all the score sheets,
Right.
the questions, all the documentation of every step that we took to get to that point.
And then they would be the OPM would be joining us if we had meetings in July or August or.
If we had a meeting in June.
June, they
In
could
June, by
be,
June, they'd be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that the goal?
our whole goal was to get to the June 3rd meeting.
And I
And
think
we're
one of
on
the-
track right now, totally on track.
I know it was a bit of a blitz, and I know it was hard with last week being vacation week, so I want to express my sincere gratitude to the subcommittee for reviewing all these things during school vacation week.
Definitely,
Yeah.
thank you.
And, but I think the difference was that we got 9 great applicants. We get to shortlist these 4, and those that come after us will not have the advantage of having these people on the list, one of these people on their list probably, because they're unlikely to get multiple big projects from the MSBA, one after the other. So the person who prevails here probably won't bother to submit on the next high school. So by being first, we got a good, set of applicants. So I know it was a push, so thank you, Lisa, Anthony, everybody for all the hard work, like with the administrative stuff, getting things going into the committee for really doing work during school break week.
And even when we had the site inspection, as Anthony knows, it was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah,
And all those
It's a
people,
big
the
school.
short list people plus the 9 all had members come to that walkthrough.
Right.
So
Wow.
they took it very seriously.
One other question, I'm assuming you're gonna talk to other school districts.
oh, right, I left that piece out. So
So my office will handle doing reference checks
Oh,
for
okay.
all 4 of the shortlisted companies.
Okay.
We'll be calling at least 3 references for each of the 4. And the MSBA has a form for what your questions you're supposed to ask and record, but
Okay.
me and the other people in the purchasing office will make those calls.
Okay.
Thank you in advance for that.
Yes.
I think that's what we had to report if there aren't other questions.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, committee. Moving on, community engagement. Dr. Reich.
Yeah, so, and this, I apologize if this overlaps a little bit with the communications subcommittee.
No, that's actually great. I think it aligns quite nicely.
But we, and Beth Ann, please jump in here at any point. The school committee had a retreat, was it maybe a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I don't remember, it's all a blur. And part of the discussion was a series of, we talked, in the retreat, the focus was really on the school choice policy for the district and whether that's something we wanted to continue or not. And the committee charged me with, and my team with going out and getting input, not just school choice, but on a lot of on many of the things that sort of intersect with the high school project as well, which includes high school and middle school configuration as well as elementary school configuration. And so I'm going to pass out a little community engagement proposal here. And this sort of lays out a plan of engagement that myself and members of my team, and I would, hope the school committee could attend some of them as well. Over the next couple of months, the school committee had wanted to get some of this input before the close of the school year, which is a little rushed, but I understand the reason, because we want to head into the fall with the summer months are sort of a wash in terms of being able to get people, but we'd be able to then start off the upcoming school year with the ability to really engage around some of these really important topics, one of which is this high school, middle school configuration piece. So this paper copy, which I will also be going over with the school committee on Monday night at our meeting, is just sort of from start to finish what the engagement process would look like. There's three different, there's multiple phases, but and I'll just quickly go over that, and then we'll dive into the community engagement. The first phase is what I'm doing now, is rolling out and getting feedback on the plan. The second would be to put out a survey to the community around some of these items. Building off of what we already did, I want to stress, and this document stresses on the bottom, that we're building off the master facilities work that already started. This isn't a brand, not completely new, we're refreshing and checking back in with people on what they told us in 21, 22. And so we do want to send out a community survey that goes along with it. Phase 3 would be to host a few different events. I'll get into that in a moment. Engage any member of the public that wants to come and talk about these items. Phase 4, if you just follow along, would be doing some work with engaging with our staff. So going to meet with the faculty at the different schools, if I can fit it in before the end of the year, to try to get to every faculty, because I do think the staff, and Lori would love your feedback on this, would, I think, appreciate being able to weigh in on some of these topics as well. Phase 5 on page 3 would be for me to go to the bodies that I typically go to engage, like specific groups, senior groups, my advisory groups in the district, Rotary, Chamber, Salem Partnership. There's a lot, I'm sure I've left things out, and I'll go back to some of the notes that we took. And so, I do some targeted engagement and bring the opportunity to hear from more people through the cadence of meetings that I already have. Phase 6 would be to begin to synthesize this data and get it to the school committee for their review. And then phase 7 and 8 really falls more on the school committee, which is for them to begin, I think we'd have to have some school committee retreats and committee of the whole meetings to discuss the input that we received through this process sometime in the fall. So that's before I get into these, the more specific what the event would look like. This is sort of the bigger plan. I don't know if people have questions about from now until the fall, what the plan for engagement would be.
I don't have a question, but I have an observation.
Sure.
The timeline for connecting with staff is short,
Yep.
considering how many buildings there are. I wonder if you might consider connecting or scheduling first. I mean, everybody's going to be impacted. I think the ones that are, in my mind, the ones that might be most impacted would be those schools that have middle schools.
Yes.
And I'm wondering whether it might make more sense to start there. Just an observation.
Yeah, and actually, it turns out I am going to be meeting with the middle school staff at Salem next week, specifically about, they asked to meet with me about the K-8 model. They've heard rumors, and it's not rumors, we've been talking about it.
Right.
It's been talked about here, it's been talked about at school committee. I think that's a great idea, and I think we should definitely start.
Just with that.
Yes,
But I think
absolutely.
also,
Yes. I do feel out of respect for the different staffs, I'm gonna try very hard to find ways, even if it's on Zoom, to try to engage and get their input, just because I do think it affects teachers quite a bit, as well, so. And you're right, it is a little crunched, and I might be a little overly optimistic to be able to, ambitious to do all of this, but, I'm gonna try. Or we're gonna try. Lisa's gonna be along for the ride, for sure. Lisa, don't look so excited.
So I have a question about,
So this, yeah.
just the folks who you're gonna have these, we'll call them focus groups, if that's the right term, but, because in our initial subcommittee meeting, one of the things we're gonna do is try to identify the various, constituencies that we wanna engage with. So I'm just curious, how did you go about identifying the different?
All I did is I put a list of groups that I regularly engage with, that I already have regular meetings with.
Okay.
Of course, that is not an exhaustive list,
Mhm.
and I would love to get, let's add to it.
Okay.
Like, I don't think the Latino leadership, Leadership Coalition is there. But I think I go to anybody that will take me.
You should tell that pretty.
Yeah, she's pretty exhausted.
And
Yeah.
I
And
shared that
my
with
concern
those
is, which is great, but it's kind of you want to make sure that you have as much input as you possibly can get, but there's also a timeline, and so my fear is you can't get to everyone, and if you can't get to everyone, of course, there are going to be folks who are not going to be happy. So, how
Well, a lot of these, like I said, a lot of the groups that I listed, I regularly do meet with these
Okay.
people. So like, I have standing meetings with a parent advisory, the special education advisory, the multilingual parent advisory, the Rotary, and I go once or twice a year. Salem Partnership is every Friday, I can get back on their agenda. I think, yes, I think that's right, but I also see that I can do some of that over the summer as well. I can do that into the fall. I don't know that the engagement with all these groups needs to be done by June. But in fact, in the summer, I know some of them do meet, and I will take every opportunity I can, that this should be what I'm asking for input on, even when I'm giving update. I have a couple of meetings coming up where I will squeeze this in to make sure that we're collecting input on these areas. The actual forums, I would tailor what we're doing in the forums to each of these groups. And the way we've sort of conceived of this is that we'd start by framing the event for the first 15 minutes. Then we'd go into breakout groups where we would, for 20 minutes, we'd rotate between 3 groups focused on high school, middle school grade span would be one group, elementary grade configuration would be a second group, and then the city school choice policy would be a third group. And so people would be placed into 3 different groups, and we'd rotate. There'd be a facilitator of each of the groups. That facilitator would do a 5-minute kind of overview with some context. I think in talking with Beth Ann the other day, we don't really want to be too leading. I think we want to be more open-ended. And we just want to hear what people have to say. I took some, today I spent some time drafting some key questions for each one of the groups, and it got cut off a little in the bottom, but this is the, like, each group, I had like 2 key questions. I love people's feedback on these. This is all in draft form, brought it, just wanted to bring it to you here tonight. But these would be the key questions that would drive the discussion in the breakouts, is what I'm thinking. But of course, again, like, would love your feedback and input on any of this, either tonight or in the next 2 weeks before we take the show on the road.
Not sooner.
Not sooner, yeah. Questions, comments?
How are participants going to know what strategic priorities and goals are of the district in these
Yeah.
meetings?
I was gonna hand people a copy of one pager that we have of our strategic plan. We do have it in different languages as well. And so, I would also point out that we will have interpreters at these sessions. But we would give them a copy of that. And at the opening, I want to point out that these are our strategic priorities that the school committee supports, and anything we do should be in support of those district priorities and goals. I don't know, Beth Ann, if you want to add anything to any of that.
No, I think we generally, when we're speaking with community groups and among ourselves, we're pretty consistent about framing our objectives through the lens of the strategic plan, which is sort of first and foremost equity, and then everything is kind of built from there. So I think this will probably be easy to accomplish, and also not the first time most people who are going to show up for a meeting like this are going to hear it.
Would you welcome members of the committee to at least maybe not participate, but hear and
Yeah.
see and witness
school committee?
any of these?
Anyone,
things?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I would want them to be.
Okay, and then is there anything that you would like us, like, do you want help?
Well, that's a good question. I would love help.
It's always good.
First of all,
help.
I would love for you to be as much of these as you possibly can be. If you're interested, maybe I'll put out something to see if anybody wants to help facilitate. I would actually myself prefer to be bouncing from group to group, because then I can listen a little better to the different. We would probably be members of the executive team that would be part of their.
I think school committee members.
Yeah, school committee members could also do it too. I guess I'd have to think about who exactly the facilitators would be, but I don't think it should just be one person. Somebody should be taking notes, another person should be, I think it'd be more than one person.
We
Yeah,
can also use the family engagements to facilitate.
that's true. Could use them as well, yeah.
So,
I think, I'm sorry.
no, there'll be a calendar, I assume, of the meetings, so that if we need to
Yes, yeah.
try to attend, again, just as, for me, to hear, not necessarily
Yeah,
to
same here.
participate, but,
With you.
yeah.
The thing that worries me the most is getting people out, because this is not a good time for people with end of the year stuff, but we'll make a big push. My guess is that the Zoom will be, that was true about our budget forums, we had more people attend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, by a lot.
It's not surprising, I mean.
Yeah. It isn't surprising, but I hope that this is enough of a catchy topic that,
I think there'll be some interest.
yeah, I hope so, and, yeah.
I think it's a great idea if members of this committee can, maybe show up to one, because there is this sort of tension between the big picture decision-making that the school committee has to do and the timeline that we're on in here. So for most of the school committee, it's like, well, we have this big decision to make, and we're not gonna do it very thoughtfully and slowly, and this committee is not working at that pace. So I think understanding all of the kind of tentacles that come off of thinking about, do we do a middle high school combination, that has so many implications for the district as a whole, and I think it would be great for this group to just sort of know all of those issues, because I do think there's gonna be a little bit of tension in the timeline.
Yeah, and the good news is, I roughly just estimated, the architect will not be on board probably till September, so all of the discussions can happen free of
Great.
that question, which is what's gonna be, what's it gonna look like, are you already made a decision? Because that won't even be, they won't even be here.
Yeah, that's a great point, Paul. I also, if you can help me get people out, all of you have constituents and relationships. I will, we have to decide on the days and the times. The idea is the survey would also be the launch of saying like, we want you to fill out the survey, but we really want you to attend one of the meetings because we really want to hear what you have to say. I think, Beth Ann and I have talked about that. I think every one of us has our own ideas of what we think should happen, but we want it, and we do think that I think there should be this is an opportunity to do some bold things for the city of Salem, but I also think we want to be respectful of the fact that we just want to hear what people have to say in a more open-ended fashion without, to your point, like, I don't want anybody to say they've already decided, because the decisions haven't been made. I think we've had some really important conversations, the school committee did in the retreat, and there are some really strong feelings about doing some things differently. I don't want to speak for the committee, but I think, but no final decisions have been made, and so I think they want to again, I think having as much information and as much input as possible before we get into like, I don't want to be under the gun to make a decision on what the high school needs to be because of the MSBA timeline without having done our due diligence ahead of time.
So we'll make sure that the communications subcommittee will get you the list of folks that we've identified as.
Okay, yeah.
We gotta get that. I think I've set a deadline. I don't even know what the deadline was, but I think it's pretty soon. So we'll get that information.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are you?
Well, I mean, I hope if people
Questions
give me
about the
feedback
questions?
on the questions, on the
Or-
process, I haven't exactly done this before, so this kind of engagement, this is big for the city. It does represent, possible significant changes in the way our schools look in the future.
No, I think the questions are good.
And the school committee's we're gonna have this, I'm gonna put this in front of the school committee on Monday night too.
Right.
Beth Ann, could you share some of the thoughts of the school committee, like at this point in time?
Yeah, I don't want to presume to speak for any specific member, but at our retreat, I think the primary takeaway is school choice working the way it was intended to work? And overwhelmingly, we all said, we took a straw poll, and the answer is no, it is not. And so, starting from the ground up, which is school choice, already we know we're going to have to make some big moves in order to make sure that the district is equitable, and there's a lot of different fronts where the district is, we're working toward equity, that's the goal. So identifying where we're not succeeding is sort of an important step. I mean, I can speak for myself. I'm really in favor of a joint middle high school. I see a lot of benefits to retention, to the CTE programming. I think that there are several other committee members who feel really strongly as well. I'm interested in hearing more from teachers, and particularly teachers in the pre-K program. I've heard some really interesting proposals about having a pre-K centered center, I guess.
Like an early childhood.
Like a centrally located, place for our real littles, and then a 1 through 6, right? So that's sort of an interesting configuration, but there are lots of different configurations for us to think about if we do go to the joint middle and high school. But there are also concerns about having middle school kids with high school kids. And we do keep coming back to that conversation about how do we keep kids sort of physically separate, from a social emotional standpoint, because they do need it during that transition, but when is it appropriate to bring them together so that they can be big kids, they can take advantage of sports and music and CTE. So
I gotta believe there's schools out there we know there's schools who are doing it and doing it well. Have we looking to approach?
that's one of the things that we've asked for is to get folks to come in from one of those models to talk about where, what's successful and where they struggled, and so that we can sort of start a little bit ahead of the game. But overall, I think there are more benefits than drawbacks to it, but, I will say, we are not a knee-jerk school committee, so we collect a lot of information, and there's a lot of discussion before any votes are gonna be taken.
Good choice of words.
Deliberative. Nice.
Okay. We'll go with that one too.
Wait, what did you say?
I said
Deliberative.
deliberative.
We are that, and slow. Yep. In a good way.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Okay, thank you. So we are now at a quorum, so we can actually, we have 2 votes in front of us today. First vote is to authorize the membership of the OPM Selection Committee. And again, I apologize, I sent it out late this afternoon, the list of members and those who have voting privileges, if you will. So we have 11, I think, here today?
We actually have 12.
Oh, 12.
Yep.
Okay. So if you refer to the agenda, you'll see the subcommittee membership for the OPM. Anthony Delaney, Rick Jones, Mike Formica, Lisa. Matt. Oh,
Matt, it is,
oh, Matt,
it's supposed to
okay.
be Matt from
All right, good.
Is it?
It says Mike.
Oh, okay.
Is that not right, Betsy? That's right.
Bestie?
Isn't it Matt?
You're our,
Oh, it is
you're
Matt
our
Vermeulen, but
bestie.
I'm bestie
You're
today.
one of, you're our bestie.
Bestie.
It's the names on the screen. How's that? Let's see the names on the screen. So we need a
You do that.
motion,
You don't have to spell it.
motion to approve the slate of members for the OPM Selection Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, so we got a Buckland and second by Perla, okay?
Figure.
Any comments, questions, concerns? All those in favor who are eligible to vote, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. And moving on to the second voting item, the vote to approve the RFS and authorize the RFS for advertising. I believe we have some slides. Do we have slides for that or not?
No, I had emailed that to everybody
Okay.
when Anthony submitted it, so
Okay,
people looked at it probably before the last meeting.
okay. We'll make the motion and then if people have questions, we'll go. Okay. So motion to approve the RFS and authorize the RFS for advertising.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thanks, Beth Ann. Thanks, Perla. Questions? Comments? Concerns? No? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I'm up. Okay. So the communications subcommittee met on, I forgot when we met. When did we meet?
I wasn't there, but April 6th, was it?
Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so I've got some notes. So we kind of established the purpose of the committee. The purpose of the communications subcommittee is to keep constituents abreast of the project as well as engage in the community in the process with fidelity and transparency. Very important with fidelity and transparency. Good thing is a lot of the work is already being started, so I actually think it aligns quite nicely.
Yeah, I hope it
with
didn't.
what you're doing. No, I'm actually glad that you did. So we really identified 3 items, identify the various constituents to be notified, and we're collecting that information now. We'll make sure we get that to you so again, we can try to engage all those groups that we feel need to be engaged. Also, we talked about the development and delivery of communication strategies, and then we also talked about determining the frequency of those communications. So who gets them, what do they look like, and how often do they get them? This basically we talked about. And of course, nothing will be distributed until we get the blessing of the school committee in this committee. And then we identified kind of 2 milestones. One we talked about, superintendent is beginning the engagement. That's important. We want to be part of that process, and that's seems like it's going pretty well. It's on schedule. And then of course the hiring of the OPM. So I think we're in good shape. And we're about to schedule our second meeting sometime in May, just trying to get everyone's schedule. So I think we're pretty much on track. Anyone have anything to add? Questions? Okay. All right. Thank you. And next we have, oh man, this is it? Wow. So now here's an opportunity for public comments. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. All right. I guess not. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 16th. Actually, I want to add one thing. So, actually, no, we don't need it, because we just got the vote, forget it. Our next meeting is Thursday, May 16th, in person here. And is there anything, when you get the dates for the,
Maybe I should make that one, maybe I should make that the date of one of the forums.
that's probably a good idea.
It would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to meet every month, but, and there's only so many,
Yeah.
dates that we have to be able to do. So maybe if I made May 16th one of
Okay.
the in-person. I don't know how people feel about that.
That would be good, because we won't
Unless you
have-
feel like there's a need to bring everybody together.
The OPM committee will be waiting,
We'll be
we'll have
waiting,
submitted
yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
we'll be waiting.
So maybe June would be a good time, because then you'd be able to introduce the OPM in June.
Right.
We probably should talk about, I don't know how far out, I should know this, how far out we scheduled meetings. Because we probably should talk about the summer. Did we?
June is the last
Okay.
scheduled one.
Okay,
And then we didn't,
good.
we never talked about what would happen after June,
Okay, okay.
as of right now.
I seem like we're on schedule, which is great, but I always get a little cautious. I wonder if it makes sense to have a placeholder. I know people are busy and all that stuff in July, I get all that, but it might not be a bad idea to have a placeholder meeting. If we need it, we take it. If we don't need it, we just keep it moving. We can talk about that at the next meeting.
Yeah, or, I mean, the other thing is we could put, Lisa could propose a schedule for the upcoming school year, from, July is gonna be tough to
Yeah.
get people, but if you did
August.
August through, and just had a placeholder for every month,
Yeah,
the committee can choose to then not have the meeting or not, but schedule it out so people can put the dates in
Yeah.
their calendar. We could bring
Yeah.
that to the June meeting, like a
That'd be
schedule for
Right.
all throughout next year.
Yep. And we would probably try to stick with the third Thursday, because we don't want to conflict with.
I
so
know
was
it's
it,
good.
was the city council
As we
meeting
are tonight.
today kind of
City council, I think, is the
was
fourth.
this a special meeting or no, they normally meet?
I think
It's a regular
it
meeting.
was a regular meeting, but because of April vacation, we ended up
Oh,
scheduling
okay,
at the same time.
okay.
But I think
So-
Thursday nights is really good for the city officials,
That's,
because they work late on Thursday
Right.
night.
Oh, is this a
Thursdays.
special meeting? For us.
So-
For us, because we
Yeah,
were supposed to
so
be last week.
that
So
would
maybe
be,
stick with this?
yeah, it would be good, yeah, I think it would if it works for other people.
all right, so for our meeting in June, I would bring that?
Yeah, maybe bring a
Right,
calendar.
a calendar,
Yeah.
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 And we're saying May, we're gonna,
So, yeah, let's maybe, if people are okay, then I will schedule something in May. I don't know if this is the right location for a forum, but there's parking.
and we already have it,
We already have it booked.
it's our space anyway.
Yep.
We also have the live stream,
That's true.
Oh, yes.
so I would take advantage of
Okay,
that.
all right.
Just saying.
Lisa, we got some work to do.
And and it's at the
We
high
can
school,
start
which
getting
makes
this.
sense, this is
Yeah.
Yeah,
part of the, right?
Yeah, kind of makes
yeah, I
sense.
think that's,
Okay. So the next
Are there
meeting
any other
for the forums,
locations?
would it be the same time, or we're just gonna,
Yeah, maybe keep 6:30.
because we have this time
Yeah.
anyway, all right.
I don't know if there's any other locations in the community that we should host another in-person forum.
Espacio,
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Espacio would be good.
Is that big enough to?
You can't, yeah.
It's got a couple areas you
CDC
can
might
break out.
let us use some of their space.
What about the
CDC
senior
is,
center?
Lafayette
Senior
Street.
center?
Yeah,
that's not that
that's a
It's
really
not-
big spot.
people will like walk to, can't.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I think
They might let us do that.
CDC has some good space there. I can reach out, we can reach out, I just met with them, so we can reach out about their space. And if you all can, I'll get you the dates as soon as I can look at the calendar, but if you could really promote, that would be great. And we really, I mean, teachers will show up, but if we let teachers, I'd rather the staff get their own.
Yeah.
And so maybe Laura, you can help me get that word out to, through the teachers union channels and so forth, so,
Would this next meeting be for the public in general?
yes,
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah.
It'd be great if we get students to come for that informational session. That would be really, I would love to hear their, sorry, I just jumped in without asking.
No, it's not, please.
Um,
We're an informal group.
Okay. But I would really love, particularly the high school students who have been through, you know, they've gone through school choice, they've had these experiences, some in a K through 8, some in a K to 5, so, you know, however we could coerce them. Pizza usually is the way to coerce them.
Feed them and they will come.
Exactly. Pizza always works.
What is the best medium to get, you know, to communicate to students?
Text.
Is there,
Yeah.
does the school use that
We have, we can email them all on their, school emails.
But do they respond? Do
Do
you
you
find
check
that's
it?
the best way for them to respond?
I personally check my school email. I know some of my friends don't, but I think that's the easiest way to like get everyone's, to get
But if you gotta send out an email and then you gotta make an announcement over the loudspeaker, you can check it. But the kids are better this year, honestly. There's been a big difference between the first year here and now with the amount of kids that check email and it's going. They're more.
Even college students.
Yeah. Well, I also have a student, we have a student advisory group that's been meeting, and I have a standing meeting with them in May and June, so I could do this with them. We have some other topics for May, but for June, I can certainly do this with the kid, and I have a group of 16 kids who all respond. Actually, the way we got them is through email. They responded to a survey, and so we have a pretty diverse group of students at all different grade levels who, but I think we just, for these meetings, this is for anybody. I mean, people who have kids, people who don't have kids, doesn't matter. Young people, old people.
Anything else? Last minute comments? Okay. I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motions, no, so moved. Motion adjourned.
Second?
Seconded.
Any questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you doing?